Welcome back to the Warehouse Podcast, everyone. My name's Elijah. Wanted to come through chat today a little bit about two guys on the Orioles making changes and seeing really phenomenal results. Before we get into that, of course, want to thank the sponsor of this show. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for everything football. From preseason NFL to college kicking off, Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. You think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today, use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. So the first guy I want to talk about today is Colton Cowser. We have obviously seen him on a tear since the second half started. And the story I'm going to talk about has made the rounds on Twitter. It was reported by folks like Andy Kotska at the Baltimore Banner, and others, don't get me wrong. It is that Colton Cowser is using a slightly longer bat. It is a half-inch longer. It's still a drop 3. It's a half-ounce heavier as a result. He went from a 30.5 ounce weight to a 34-inch bat, 31 ounce heavy. And so, he comes out after the All-Star break, says, what the heck, I'm going to try it out. Apparently guys like Santander had been pushing him to do this. I think the quote from Santander was, "You're a big guy, you should be using a bigger bat," But sure enough, in his first at bat out of the All-Star break, hits a 420-foot bomb off of Nathan Eovaldi. That'll play. We've had our experiences with Nathan Eovaldi, and we are happy to see him getting touched up like that, of course. So before I get into all this, I want to preface that there are signs he will regress, that there are not a lot of people who can have a 918 OPS every year, which is what he has done since the All-Star break, since using this new bat. That's fine and good. He's a, very, very productive player, even if some of this stuff regresses to the mean. The couple red flags here. First off, he's got a 23.1 home run per fly ball rate since the All-Star break. To put that in context, only 8 hitters have kept up better rates than that all year. Those hitters are exactly who you'd expect them to be: Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Marcell Ozuna, Gunnar Henderson, shout out Gunnar, Juan Soto, Ketel Marte, Brent Rooker, and Kyle Schwarber. So a lot of guys who hit a lot of home runs and excel at when the ball is in the air, they are making good contact, it's going over the fence. That's fine. But a little bit of more general context for this 23.1% home run per fly ball rate. Good home run hitters are usually in the 15 to 20% range, and league average is just south of 10, if I remember correctly. So he also has a 394 batting average on balls in play, which is frankly absurd. League average is right around 300. Good batted ball profiles will help this to illustrate the fact that you can get well above 300. Aaron Judge is leading the league with a 390 right now, which is obscene. And for anyone who's like, well, he just hits a bunch of home runs. No, it actually does not factor in home runs. Batting average on balls in play is explicitly taking a look at balls that are in play that defenders have the ability to make a play on. So anyway, Aaron Judge is very good. This is not an Aaron Judge podcast, but Colton Cowser is, probably playing above his weight right now just a little bit, and that's fine. But what are the things I'm seeing, and what are the things we should look at that say, okay, this actually looks pretty good. It looks like we've got some, deeper level improvements here as a result of this change. I guess the first thing I'm seeing, I mentioned the 918 OPS, batting average is up, OBP is up, slugging is up, his isolated power is up. All of these surface level results are very good. Looking under the hood a little bit, taking a look at batted ball profile, overall, his hard hit rate is only up a very, very tiny percent. Kind of medium contact, medium exit velocity hit rates are up about 4%, and soft contact rate is down about 4%. So that just says he's kind of raising the floor here. He's minimizing the amount of weak contact he has. And this kind of goes along with what Casca and others had reported. This is a move to really stay in the zone a little bit longer. He is a strong dude and has really good bat speed and a short swing path. And thinks that that was actually hurting him a little bit, thinks he was moving out of the zone too quickly with the bat. So this is kind of protecting against weaknesses when pitchers resort to their secondaries. This is keeping him in the zone just a little bit longer. And to that effect, if you look at whiff rates by pitch, for fastballs, it's down 5.5% from 22.6 to 17.1. So fastballs down 5.5%. Off-speed pitches are actually up 1.8%. If you want to get Colton Cowser out, throw him changeups. He's whiffing 40% of the time, but that was about 39% of the time beforehand, so not a huge issue, not a huge change there, up just about 2%. But really where you see the improvement is on breaking pitches. On breaking pitches, his whiff rates are down 14%, from 42.6 down south of, well, about average. What you like to see is about 33%. That's a good rule of thumb. So he's down below that threshold. Well, I should say, you like to see that as a pitcher. You don't like to see that as a hitter. So we're down below that threshold. He's only whiffing, 28.5% of the time. That down 14%, that effectively means that 1 out of every 7 times he swings at the ball, it used to be a whiff and it's not, which is significant. So yeah, whiff rates are down. He's seemingly staying in the zone a little bit longer. And so kind of back to like how that's translating to batted ball profile stuff. The very, very first thing that kind of jumps off the page is he's much more pull heavy now. His pull rate is up 6.5%, up the middle down 2.5%, and oppo down over 5%. And if you kind of start to put puzzle pieces together, this does make some sense. He is still on time for the fastball, and it's relatively rare to hit breaking stuff to the opposite field unless your swing really breaks down and you're just kind of flicking it. If you are going to be on time for the fastball, you're going to have to slow yourself down, and you will inevitably be ahead of the breaking stuff. And if he is staying in the zone a little bit longer, he's going to be making more contact with the breaking stuff, and as such will be pulling balls more. It makes sense. And obviously we banned shifts and all, but like I think it's valid to say that shifts happened because pulling the ball is pulling the ball is like effectively a good thing. There are a lot of people, you look at like the Rays prototype of Harold Ramirez and Isaac Paredes, who's just traded to the Cubs, of course, but pulled fly balls translate to home runs. So since his bat change, a hilarious 57% of Cowser's fly balls have been home runs. And that's only 4 out of 7. So I'm not going to like tell you it's this huge sample size or anything like that, but it shows the effectiveness of pulling the ball in the air. He's kind of gotten under the ball or gotten really on plane with it to elevate it 7 times since the All-Star break, and 4 of them have been home runs. So pulling the ball is a good thing. And to kind of keep diving into that, hard hit rate is up 4% from his average when he pulls the ball. Medium contact rates are exactly the same, and soft contact rates drop that corresponding 4%. When he is pulling the ball, he is just not missing effectively. And so, to like kind of dive into, well, is he elevating the ball to the pull side? That's obviously what we want to see. We just talked about what the Rays do with their guys, and how Cowser has hit, 4 of 7 fly balls. So is he getting to that? Is he hitting fly balls? And it's kind of the opposite. Cowser's fly ball percentage, kind of by spray angle, by where he hits the ball, to the pull side is his lowest by a good margin. Only 19% to pull, 41% to center, 65% to oppo. By far, it's his highest ground ball rate to the pull side, but all that kind of makes sense intuitively. If you stand next to a plate and kind of hold a bat out and let it tilt down a little bit away from you, effectively, you can map out what's going to happen with some like random error in there. A ball that hits the top of your bat is going to go away. It's going to go oppo, and a ball that hits the bottom of your bat will go to the pull side. You hit more ground balls to the pull side, you hit more fly balls to the opposite field. This is just how it works. And I think that as Cowser figures out sort of like where his barrel is with this new bat at what time, there's obviously an amount of feel to it. Definitely expect him to keep kind of chasing those pull side fly balls a little bit. And yeah, hopefully like continuing to get to that good power that he has. Obviously, good exit velos, all the above. So last note on Cowser pulling the ball being a good thing. On balls he has pulled since this bat change, he is hitting .556 with a .972 slugging percentage on pulled batted balls for a weighted runs created plus of 337. That does mean when he pulls the ball, he's on a value basis about as good as 3.5 average players. That's obviously ridiculous, but it will, obviously bode well for him if he keeps pulling the ball. Keep doing that. And it gave us this funny stat. 3.5 players again. So, but yeah, taking a step back from just pulled fly balls and batted ball profile in general, swing and miss overall is down pretty significantly. Whiff rate is down to 24.4% from 31.5 before. K percentage down from 29.6. That like the 30% that you really don't want to see. That is down to 26%. His walk rate is down very slightly to 9% from 9.3. So still above average walk weights. Still above average walk rates. He seems to have largely maintained his approach here. And, he still plays elite defense, obviously. We are like, we saw reports from Eric Longenhagen of Fangraphs and other folks saying they're not sure if Cowser could handle center field. He has shattered those expectations. He is playing center extremely well. He's playing left extremely well. Yeah, so love just watching this dude play. Shout out to Colton Cowser. Keep doing your thing. And the heavy bat seems to be working. The next guy in these two that I want to talk about here is the kind of marquee trade acquisition that the Orioles had, Zach Eflin. I want to set up a little bit about him at first. He is an elite command pitcher. He walks like 2-point-something% of the guys that he faces. He does not have bad stuff. I'll tell you in a sec, but like stuff plus on the secondaries is really pretty good. Stuff plus on the fastballs is not. And particularly the four seam. His four seam fastball per stuff plus grades out as a 61, where 100 is average. Again, that's like 39% worse than an average four seam fastball. His sinker is a 90. His cutter is an 87. Those are more like closer to average pitches, slightly below. His slider is a 120, curveball is a 109, changeup is a 106. The secondaries is where you see good stuff from him. But Pitching Bot, the other analyzer on the other pitch modeler on Fangraphs, really kind of agrees and takes it even a step further a little bit. Not a single pitch grades out as even a 50. Pitching Bot uses the 20 to 80 scale where 50 is average. Not a single pitch grades out as average by stuff on Pitching Bot. The other components of these models, location plus and overall, location has Eflin pretty much across the board being a, exceedingly above average to elite pitcher. And as a result, combining those two, both of them view him as a plus pitcher, a good thing, of course. I just say that because I don't want this to turn into any Fangraph slander. I know, you know who you are. I'm looking at you. You guys think that Fangraphs hate the Orioles. They just churn out content according to these models, of course. So, yeah, Zach Eflin, good pitcher overall, but particularly with the four-seam fastball, he's not a stuff guy. We see him out there, he's chucking around 90 miles an hour, depending on which fastball he's throwing. And there is this glaring hole with his four-seam fastball. Again, by stuff plus, it is 39% worse than league average. And yeah, Pitching Bot has it at a 32 on the 20 to 80 scale. Typically, when you say something is plus, that is plus or minus 5, or that's a +5 to the grade. That's a 55. I'm sorry, that's a 60, and you say slightly above average. Yeah. So, a 32 is like a minus pitch, I guess is the point. And effectively just not effective in any way, shape, or form. So the Orioles went ahead, they got this guy, and they basically said, yeah, we don't want to do that as much. So Eflin has thrown 371 pitches since joining the Orioles. He's thrown 262 fastballs. Only 45 of those were four-seam. In 114 fastballs against right-handed hitters, StatCast has only tracked 4 four-seam fastballs for like something like 3.5% of the fastballs he throws against righties. With the Rays, of 566 fastballs thrown, 84 had been the four-seam. That's about 10% of total usage against the righties and just under 15% of the fastballs they used. So the Orioles are clearly, like, against righties in particular, moving away from the four-seam fastball. And what I really love about this is Eflin did not have bad results against righties with the four-seam fastball. It was actually quite good. And he had an xwOBA, expected weighted on base average of 302 against the four-seam from righties. League average is about 320. So, based on quality of contact, expecting hitters to get on base less often. Average exit velocity was only around 85 miles an hour, hard hit rate around 30%. All of these things are really showing that the four-seam fastball was relatively effective against righties. As mentioned before, that's due in large part to Eflin having great command. He knows exactly where he wants to put the pitch. But what makes this almost a little bit funnier is that what the Orioles have replaced it with effectively is upped cutter usage. And righties against the cutter, when he was in Tampa, were doing much better. That xwOBA I talked about, average of 320, the four-seam was at 302. That was 456 while he was with the Rays against righties. Exit velocities were just shy of 92 miles an hour. Hard hit rates were over 58 miles an hour. Pretty much in every way, the cutter graded out as a less effective pitch against right-handed hitters. The Orioles saw this and really just like dove headlong into it. So the biggest things I see are that the Orioles are having him use the cutter almost a little bit like a four-seam. I'm gonna like put air quotes around that. But the velocity has gone up a tiny bit. Spin is down a little bit. He has lost an inch of glove side movement, and he has started to put a little bit more vertical break on it. He's got about 1 inch more of induced vertical break. And it's also like in the locations as well. He is throwing the pitch a few inches less toward the edge, and he's throwing it a few inches higher on average. He seems to be nibbling a bit less. He is throwing it up in the zone a tiny bit more. There was a slight velocity gain, so you could almost say he's throwing it a tiny bit harder. It was only like, it was less than half a mile an hour, so I don't want to exaggerate. But yeah, so just in general against right-handed hitters, like every pitch, the usage is down besides this cutter. And the cutter, he had been throwing it 15.5% of the time against righties as a Ray, and he's throwing it over 35% of the time, more than doubled the average usage against right-handed hitters for it. And yeah, so it not only is it taking from that four-seam fastball, it's also he's throwing less secondary pitches. His secondary usage as a whole is down 8%. And the results on the cutter have been great. On that cutter, the whiff rate is up at 32%. In terms of fastballs, that's very, very good. Typically, with breaking pitches, you will see higher, or secondary pitches as a whole, you will see higher than that. But yeah, that xwOBA figure I was talking about, down to 242. Remember, league average is around 320. So, based on quality of contact, based on whiff rates, everything about this cutter has been very, very effective. And it seems like the Orioles are having him lean into the vertical on it. He is missing bats. He's clearly, not getting into too much trouble with it. Based on quality of contact, xwOBA again. And yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating thing, particularly that the Orioles noticed this and saw the potential for this while the cutter was getting hit well by righties, while he was in Tampa. So the Orioles have clearly identified this. Early returns on it have been very good. And yeah, but that's just how he's attacking righties. So against lefties, the Rays used the cutter more than anything else. It was just under 40% of the time. And while it's still the case that the Orioles are using the cutter more than anything, at the same time, he's throwing it about 10% less. And that's mostly replaced by the four-seam fastball. That thing I just took all this time telling you it sucked. Yeah, usage on that has gone up 9%, while usage on the cutter has gone down 10.2%. So almost all of the reduction in cutter usage has been replaced by four-seam. And so the Orioles are kind of, playing like 4D chess to my eyes, because it seemed very simple. He's got this bad pitch, stop throwing it. And that is not the case. They said, oh, actually, we want more of that over here when you're facing a left-handed hitter. So the best explanation I can give you for this, well, I can tell you first, the four seam has been really good. Lefties are hitting 143 against it. There has not been an extra base hit. He's been, well, yeah, and kind of the explanation for why it's been good, I think he's been a little bit less worried about nibbling at the corners, kind of the same way I talked about the cutter against righties. And he's throwing it higher in the zone. On average, it's about 4 inches higher than it was with the Rays against lefties. So he's throwing this fastball higher in the zone, despite the fact it's not very good. And he's using all three of his fastballs pretty evenly. If you keep track with some of these analytically inclined circles, you'll find that pitchers more and more often are using 2 or 3 fastballs pretty frequently in their repertoires. And basically, multiple fastballs are good because hitters are at the point now where they have adjusted to the, I'm going to pound you at the top of the zone with four-seam fastballs with really high rise. They've figured that out. We have talked about Jackson Holliday on this pod and the adjustments he made to it. And basically, the argument is that if hitters are gearing up for that right at the top of the zone, and now you throw something that's just going to deviate, 5 inches, 10 inches, like it can be one of these big arm side run sinkers, or it could be a little cutter with just like some late movement. Either way, you're going to get the hitters off of that four-seam fastball. You're going to miss some barrels and induce some weak contact at the very least. And that's why multiple fastballs are turning into a good thing. It's rather than, well, it's just about being unpredictable is really what it is. And we have a guy in Zach Eflin who is so proficient with his command that you can use these 3 fastballs even if one is not good, and you just keep one out of the danger zone. And like I said, he's throwing it higher against lefties, about 4 inches higher on average. And so this is a thing that the Orioles are consciously doing. They are worrying a little bit less about keeping it away, and they are moving it up in the zone, letting the sinker work to his arm side and letting the cutter bear in. And once again, all of these pitches are somewhere between 19 and 29% of his usage. So he is using them pretty frequently. And the fastballs are dominating. It's 60-70% of the pitches he's throwing to lefties are these fastballs. So interesting note there that despite the fact that the four seam is not very good, he's been using it very, very effectively. The other thing I'll note on usage to lefties, curveball usage is down just a touch. He has not thrown a single slider to a lefty yet, which is kind of interesting. He does have kind of a 2-plane slider, and typically, you'll see very often that sweepers are not used against opposite-handed hitters. The more horizontal break that you have, basically the easier it is for them to read, because you've got to start it farther away from them. And it just kind of coasts in like right into the middle of the zone for them. Obviously, if you're throwing it further inside, that's not the case. But in general, more sweepy sliders are not used against opposite-handed hitters. So it is a bit of an interesting thing because he has some 2-plane break, but the Orioles are clearly committed to this and think that upped usage on his changeup and upped usage on all these fastballs can basically go ahead and replace that effectively. And it has been very effective. As a Ray against left-handed hitters, it was a 266 xwOBA, which was still very good, and 21% whiff rates. Whiff rate has gone up about 5.5%. Expected weighted on base is down 22 points. The overall run value that he's produced against left-handed hitters is pretty comparable. It's not necessarily no huge difference in that sense, but some of these underlying metrics on quality of contact, on the ability to miss bats, both of these things are pointing to the fact that he is more effective right now against lefties, and expect that to continue and continue to prove out good results. Yeah, and then the other thing about him, he just continues walking nobody. This is not like a change that the Orioles have made, but this is just a thing about him and what he does. He has walked 2% of hitters he's faced since joining the Orioles. That is 2 hitters out of 102 batters faced. The guy's incredible. It's really not elite stuff. It is solid stuff when you incorporate the secondaries, but he just has this immaculate command of it. And obviously, the Orioles are going to rely on both of these guys over the course of this season, coming down the stretch here. Cowser's been leading off for us against right-handed pitching, has looked comfortable there. And I think the dropping Gunnar to the 3 holes starting to show some returns. Obviously, Santander has just kept doing whatever he does. It's incredible. But yeah, Gunnar is starting to show signs of life again. Adley has clearly had some struggles this year, and being able to not stick him right at the front of the lineup every day, I think, has been good. He was against lefties, but I digress. So anyway, Cowser looking good out of the leadoff spot, looking really good in center, looking really good in left. We will continue to rely on him. And Eflin in particular, because of Grayson Rodriguez's most recent injury, despite the fact that he's going to be back, just having him being able to step out after Burns. I'm ignoring the Corbin Burns start against the Red Sox from last night. We're not going to talk about it. But having him after Burns, having 2 days in a row where you can really give the bullpen a rest, I think that is hugely important. Just to reiterate, this is not exactly a revelation with this guy. It's interesting in how the Orioles are accomplishing it. But this is a guy who was 6th in AL Cy Young voting last year. He is easily pitching like a, very, very solid number 2. He's pitching like a top 15 pitcher in the American League. And yeah, just excited to see how both these guys progress from here. These changes do look promising under the hood. I'm excited to see, how the Orioles continue to refine this stuff. If we do get to see Colton Cowser pulling some more fly balls and such. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I appreciate you guys listening, of course. You can follow and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, or over on YouTube as well. If you want to see how high the Ginsburg hairlines go, for example, I wear a hat every day. Jesse just puts the headset on and draws all his hair back. But mine is kind of up there too. So, any ratings, likes, hearts, reviews that you can give us, they're always appreciated. They help us continue to grow. You can connect with us on Twitter @TheWarehousePod, or you can always email us, thewarehousepod@gmail.com. That is all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. My name's Elijah, and go O's.